Clips. Remember, citizen, subscribe and hit the bell, and you will rest in hell. Oh, righty boob tubes, another one of Kip's clips. La 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 la. I think my microphone might not be turned up enough. But easily resolved. And push the right buttons in the right order in the morning. One and all. There we go. The microphone should sound a wee bit more as it should be sounded now. In the morning, you one and all. Anyway, who's responsible for the Chinese whispers leading to World War III? Well, I don't know. You make your own mind up who is and isn't the aggressor and stuff. But when you see bullcrap getting propagated, it's quite funny to point it out. And I want to point out a few wee things that have came out through Potholer54. Details on your screen. I'll leave a link below. And I just wanted to point at his take narrative about the evidence that Donald Trump, the president himself, is talking about that points to Wuhan being the source. Pointing to a Wuhan lab being the source of the pandemic. Now, and again, this is why, like, I'm not attributing. Who the feck am I to dare do that? But I'm not trying to point anybody's direction. Point anybody in the direction or who's responsible for this. I'm just trying to point through some of the bullcrap allegations that I think are getting spewed out just now. And the best place to look, I would argue, is with people that you might have used your own due diligence to try and understand, is not coming from some ideological, political or religious stance in the digestion of this information. And I'll stick this in the chat.
I was going to make this video about the timeline of the coronavirus outbreak in China, and as part of that I tracked down an internet rumour that the virus started in a Wuhan lab. But that rumour has suddenly become front page news. So I'll cut the video short and just focus on that. I'll leave the rest for another day.
There is a growing belief that the COVID-19 virus originated in the Wuhan lab. An intern was infected.
From Fox, this is the Chinese whispers I'm talking about. From Fox to the lawn of the White House.
Who later infected her boyfriend and then went to the wet market in Wuhan, where it began to spread.
So, who is this female intern working in a Wuhan lab who got infected? Before all this blew up in the mainstream media, weeks ago I was already following it up, prompted by a post on the forum of my last video. They knew as early as October 18th, 2019 that this virus had leaked, and that's the day it leaked out of the Wuhan Level 4 biolab. Unfortunately, the poster didn't give a source, but other believers in the lab leak claim do.
For a start,
this is the Chinese whisper. Now, you could argue how intentional, unintentional. I think a lot of these people in the chain of the Chinese whisper are unintentionally contributing to this. But the start of it and the propagation of it is very much intentional, I believe.
A scholar from the South China University of Technology recently published a paper.
Actually, it wasn't so much a published paper as something he wrote and shared on a science forum. It was posted on 23 different websites around the world and then spread around the blogosphere. The author's name is Xiao Butao. But this commentator got his information from a video called I Found the Source of the Coronavirus by a YouTuber called Lawai86.
Bing! This is the guy that anyway, I think it was somebody that watched my channel that pointed me in his direction, and I watched him, and it very much fitted in with a lot of the when I say anti-Chinese bullcrap, it's not that I'm a fan of communism, the Chinese people in general, or the Chinese Communist Party. It's just through observations. I've never been to China. I love their food, but I've never been there.
And I tracked
apart from the seafood
lot of the Wuhan
and the bat stuff
lab.
And all the other crazy ass stuff.
Escape room.
But the British version of their food I like.
Rumors back to the same video, which got over 2 million hits. Now, spoiler alert.
Oh, right. I get the gist now, Pontiac. Right. So, well, Pontiac makes a good point. And the Australian media, I mean, like, I would argue to see we're kind of where Australia's bread is buttered. Look at their flag. Just an argument. And then I would argue, look, who's participating in this global struggle right now. And it would make sense why the Australian media, especially being geographically a lot closer than a lot of the British Empire, free people of the world, whatever way you want to address it, the British Empire, Commonwealth, is closer to China. They're in a position to try to exude some influence and stuff in this whole conflict. But let's get back to this lovely wee white guy with funny, cool-looking hair who goes around China because he can speak Chinese and telling you how stinky China is. Why wouldn't you?
Now Y86, real name Matthew Tai, hasn't actually found the source of the coronavirus. But he does outline a theory that's been bouncing around the Chinese blogosphere for weeks, and he gives a very comprehensive account of all the evidence. I'll pick out the bits of his video that give the gist of the story.
Xiao Buotao, he was a professor, he posted a thesis. The professor directly pointed out that the main source of the virus is from the Wuhan lab, which is only 300, or actually 280 meters to be exact, from the Huanan seafood market. He also gives a clear timeline and has information that researchers were splashed with urine and blood samples from all the bats that were collected. People working in the lab claim to have been splashed with coronavirus-containing vials. Huang Yanling was a researcher in the lab working on the virology of bats with Shi Zhengli, and she's missing. Most people believe her to be patient 0, and most people believe she's dead. And her online presence has been scrubbed from existence, all happening in a lab 280 meters away from the Huanan seafood market. The December 24th posting acknowledges that they've made a big discovery in human transmissibility, and they need more help to deal with it.
Now, this is how people can use Chinese whispers to hold their head high while they're parroting pish. Now, you could argue whether it's deliberate or unintentional or just the natural human condition to be unable to recall information accurately. There's lots of arguments there. I mean, if this guy was describing a fruit to me inaccurately, I'd be like, oh, right, cool, right, okay, get it. It's the human thing, can't really recall everything accurately. But when he's misconstruing stuff, which is the genesis, the root of this evidence that Donald Trump's now parroting to say that Wuhan or to try and suggest that there was a lab in Wuhan responsible for the release of this coronavirus, then my arsehole twitches. I was going to say my spidey sense goes off, but I'll be honest, my arsehole twitches. That's my spidey sense.
I hope you all followed that. If not, here's a summary of the theory.
Blah 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 blah.
It all
blah,
sounds
bullshit.
very well researched and very convincing. But of course it needs to be fact-checked, And the way we do that is to ask two basic questions.
What are you talking about fact check, mate? The guy's got cool hair. He speaks American. He's white looking and he speaks Chinese. What more facts do I need to know when I'm blindly believing his accusations about we mau wow wow doing a wow 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 around the town? You know? Why do I need to fact check this guy? I don't know where this guy's coming from. But let's listen to him anyway. Let's humour this guy with like kind of like a logical thought process. Let's have a wee look at listening.
What's the evidence, and what are the sources for this evidence? There are three main lines,
Evidence?
starting with the aforementioned
Sources?
Xiao Butao.
Well,
He
look,
knew
there's a picture.
researchers
Must
at the
be
lab
true.
that were infected.
Correction, he didn't know any researchers at the lab. This is where it pays to check by reading the source, Xiao Butao's internet post.
What? Check by reading sources? What are you talking about, me? This is some crazy. I don't believe everything you speak. Don't believe everything you hear on YouTube, no matter how cleverly packaged that is. Talk. I don't get this guy. He's telling me to try and read the sources of the people that are quoting them, like because they could actually misconstrue them, misinterpret them, misconstrue them, misinterpret them, or a variety of things.
Which I'm showing you on the screen. He didn't even know the lab. He said he discovered the two labs in Wuhan, not one, by doing a search on the internet. One is the Wuhan Center for Disease Control and Prevention, just 280 meters from the Wuhan seafood market, where the virus was thought to have spread. The other is the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
I don't know, but I've heard this coming from every crazy fucking conspiracy lunatic as well. You know, how the Chinese whisper spread. I mean, Chinese whisper spread to Glasgow. To free thinkers. Oxymoron chlorophyllate. Bouncing around
About
as if they
12
understand
kilometres away.
drugs.
The professor directly pointed out that the main source
Taking drugs, enjoying drugs, and being high on drugs doesn't mean you understand drugs.
of the virus is from the Wuhan lab,
Okay, but which one?
which is only 300, or actually 280 meters to be exact, from the Huanan seafood market.
So Matthew Tai is referring to the Wuhan Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which we'll call the Wuhan CDC. That's the one 280 meters from the Wuhan seafood market, and the one he shows on the map.
He also gives a clear timeline and has information that researchers were splashed
Remember, if this stuff starts making too much logical sense to your nut, and you're like, oh, and start spazzing out and getting triggered because it doesn't fit your world view, you're in the cult. I honestly, there must be people just like, or do you think this guy's deep state Illuminati? Check out who this dude is. See if you think he's deep state Illuminati.
with urine and blood samples from all the bats that were collected.
No, Xiao Butao says one researcher, with the initials JHT, was splashed with bat blood and urine on different occasions, while he was collecting samples in caves nowhere near the Wuhan CDC,
Chinese
which is the
whispers.
institute he worked for. The timeline is not clear, but as we'll see from Xiao Butao's 2017 source, this happened several years before the novel coronavirus outbreak.
And they had already begun self-quarantine after they showed symptoms of being infected.
No, again, there's no they. This was one person, far from the lab.
Oh, hold on, mate. I disagree with you. There is always they. You know, like, this is when I know that I'm still tripping out my tits in paranoia. When I'm trying to explain something, I'm saying, they know, they do, they. Like, can you explain this they, please? You be a wee bit more accurate. You're like accusing people of like boiling babies and drinking their blood and shit, and you're just saying they. You're gonna, I mean, like, surely you've like witnessed this shit or spoke to somebody that's witnessed this stuff, and it's not just craziness that you've witnessed on YouTube because YouTube's convinced you it tells you the truth where the TV doesn't.
And he showed no symptoms of being infected. All this is spelled out in Xiao Botao's post, which Matthew Tai is supposed to be quoting. But, I hear you say, it says on Matthew Tai's screen that the researchers at the Wuhan virus laboratory were splashed with bat blood and urine. It says so right there. But what Matthew Tai's video is showing you on the screen, for some reason, is not Xiao Botao's post, but a translated report from Radio France Internationale. It comes from their Hong Kong correspondent, and as we'll see, it's
Hong Kong correspondent. Now, I would like to inject at that point as well, just a wee bit of history about the area of Hong Kong and who could arguably still be in control of that area, or still be arguably trying to be in control of that area of the planet.
ridiculously inaccurate.
The professor directly pointed out that the main source of the virus is from the Wuhan lab.
No, Xiao doesn't say that at all. He only says it's possible, and plausible, and probable. These are three different things, so take your pick, but nowhere does it say that the main source of the virus was the Wuhan CDC or any other research facility. But that's what Matthew Tai and his followers now believe, so let's figure out how this story got so terribly mangled and embellished in its many retellings. Xiao Botao's information about researcher JHT and the bat blood and bat pee comes, he tells us, from a couple of media reports. He only gives an English translation of the titles, the first of which is by a reporter called Tao, initial P. Based on that, I tracked down an article with a similar title in Chinese by a reporter called Tao Pan, featuring a bat researcher called Tian Junhua. If his family name is placed last, as in Western tradition, that gives the initials JHT. The story tells of how on different occasions blood, and on one occasion urine, had splashed on him while he was out collecting bats in the wild, and that he had isolated himself for 14 days because of the risk of infection. However, the article makes clear he was never infected. The timeline for these incidents is after 2012, when he started collecting bats, and before 2017, when the article was published. This is the researcher in question, Tian Junhua, filmed for a documentary about his research. And Xiao Botao seems to have accurately relayed what Tao Pan reported, just leaving out the dates. The Radio France Internationale reporter then seems to have mangled these different elements of Xiao Botao's post and embellished them. He turns a single researcher in.
Now, what I'm saying is that this guy's far too scientific to suggest any conjecture, right? I'm not. I don't have a white coat on. This dude does. This is he's showing you the evidence. There's no way of proving how deliberate, undeliberate, how just much of this is down to the humans. The humans. Humans not being able to accurately recall information and stuff. But this is a very big spinning, twisting of kinda half real events, you know, and it twists and spins it in the direction of trying to blame China as much as possible. It doesn't matter whether you blame them for bad security, bad practices, or whether they made it as a bioweapon. It's just to point your general. And look, I don't know about you, do I look Chinese? In fact, at points I might look Chinese, but only on a good day. And I see it as part of the war drums.
Into several. He merges the separate incidents of bat blood and bat urine into a single incident, and then he moves the scene of the action from the caves of Hubei province into something called the Wuhan Virology Lab.
Now, this guy, if you go down below, he leaves a lot of links to particular points of information that he uses during this presentation. Let's just have a look at some of the players. This Lau Y86 guy, had him in my show didn't have him on my show. Played his content on my show not too long ago. Sargon of Mossad, surprisingly picking up on this echo and then going, what? I'm not Jeremy Beadle's love child. I'm an intellectual, don't you know? There's left of centre, of up of down, of left of right. Get this guy. What's the other YouTubers I'm looking for? Where are they? Tim Pool. Tim Pool was another couple of the links. Maybe I should just kill them all and go into the YouTube ones. That's what I should do. No, there we go. There's the Tim Pool ones there. Right. So you've got Tim Pool, Sargon of Akkad, parroting Lal fucking Mai or whatever 86. He's bullshit. That has got no basis in reality. It's all spin and twist, and they all sit up there and say we're independent journalists who just report the facts. They've done none of their groundwork because they never question where they're getting the information from, if the information fits their worldview. And I like the fuck. I can't read or write, and I can see this shit. I can't believe that these motherfuckers are doing this by accident. Tim Pool. That guy. Oh, there we go. Got his shit up there, actually. Low way. Right. So they're all parroting stuff for this guy.
Just started raining, but we're going to go to one of my favorite.
Right, and because this guy walks about China, go, hey, look, I filmed some Chinese women. I'm going to speak to them about that Chinese shit and like, in a funny language to them and show how cool I am. Look how cool my hair is. Ah, look at the guy out of Scrubs. Right, for fuck's sake, look, check his nose out on him, man. Does look like a guy out of Scrubs. Anyway, but so he's bouncing about China. And then he parrots hunters a pish, and then he spins the important stories, which then ends up Donald Trump saying he's got evidence that this is some sort of a bioweapon leaked out of a lab. And I would argue, go and listen to this guy's evidence, and you'll see how it's all just spinning conjecture. And this is how people with brains see through this shit, whereas people with balls and muscles don't, because they just go to the emotional response rather than the intelligent response, which is to question this, where it all came from and how people could be parroting this.
But there's no such place, of course. He's conflated two separate institutes into one.
Ooh,
Matthew Tye then adds an embellishment of his own. Instead of these non-existent lab workers not being infected, he claims they were infected. As I said, over 2 million people have seen this video, and of course lots of bloggers and commentators have copied Matthew Tye's version of
Polygon cracker! Polygon cracker! Polygon cracker! Zinc! Hi, man, blah, 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 chlorine! Whatever the one, I can't remember. I mean, it's quite disgusting when you witness it firsthand, to be honest. You know, how easy it is to just like fucking echo pish. How easy it is to propagate absolute twisted conjecture shite for political purposes.
Radio France's version of Charles Boutal's version
propaganda.
of Tal Pan's version of the story. Okay, so let's look at Matthew Tye's second piece of evidence.
During my research, a name kept popping up. Huang Yanling.
If research means simply Googling keywords like Wuhan, bat, and patient zero, and reading blogs, chat rooms, Twitter, and its Chinese equivalent Weibo, then it's not surprising that...
I love that guy's analogy of research, you know, like this gets bandied about too much, man, and you know, everybody out there is like, I need to make a video once just called YouTube, internet has made everybody think they're a smart arse, right? You know, it makes everybody think they know everything because they fucking had a question, googled it and got the answer. That isn't research. Research on 5G isn't sticking into Google or DuckDuckGo because you're scared Google's tracking you. Or whatever fucking say, or even YouTube, even worse. And then listen to some crazy batshit crazy people spout some stuff. That isn't research. Rhyming and repeating what others have said to you isn't research. Research is the soaking in of information. Scientific, preferably scientific fucking research to increase your understanding of something. Not, I understand 5G because I can now say what that guy said to me about 5G. No understanding whatsoever. This evaporates for people's consciousness because they can go, all I need to do is like fucking watch a YouTube channel. Watch a YouTube channel. Like that guy sounds so smart to me. All I need to do is sound smart is repeat what that guy said. Wow. And I'll be so smart. And they have no idea what they're saying. And you hear it with the fucking flat earth retards. Fuck's sake, it was a flat. There was an unfortunate victim of the 5 flat earth retardedness. He's quite happy to call people retards and all that. He's bouncing around calling people believing in flat earth. Fucking, he's a personification of retardation. Anyway, don't check, double check, or question where everything comes from. 5G is real.
Wang Yanling's name keeps popping up because she's been the focus of a conspiracy theory circulated in China since early February. So, who is she?
Huang Yanling was a researcher in the lab working on the virology of bats with Shi
Sounds real.
Zhengli.
Look,
Well, she wasn't any of those things.
Oh.
First of all, Matthew Tai told us that the lab he's referring to is the Wuhan CDC, 280 meters from the seafood market. But Huang Yanling didn't work there. She worked at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is 12 kilometers away on the other side of the Yangtze River. And she didn't.
Abdul, you don't see how the 5G's getting to do with the virus? Well, 5G's getting propagated by the military-industrial complex of the Five Eyes because they're scared of China getting their infrastructure within Western democracies to allow them to spy. So all the bullshit fucking 5G's, a direct energy weapon propagated by Max Egan and stuff, is a pile of shite. Propagated for other geopolitical reasons. This virus thing, this pandemic, which I believe has been has naturally occurred. I know, call me crazy. I'm going with the consensus within wearing the white coat brigade. So it's interlinked when it comes to the information war, where they don't care how they get you to hate the thing, they just want you to get you to hate it. 5G's an example. I mean, they'll tell people that there's stories out there. If you want to go and look for it, they'll just go, here, look, we don't want 5G because it's not good for our national security. And the China thing, you'll find a variety of reasons out there to hate China right now.
Work on the virology of bats. All of her published research is involved with finding a cure for the bacterial infections Streptococcus and methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. She was investigating the pathway by which these bacteria could be destroyed by viruses, nothing to do with bats at all.
And she's missing. Most
missing.
people believe her to be patient zero.
I believe this guy to be some sort. I don't believe he's doing this stuff by accident. This is deliberate twisting of kind of facts. You know, this woman does exist. She is no longer there. But he construes it in this mad conspiracy web that the Alex Jones can pick up on it, Donald Trump can pick up on it, and then sit there and go. And that's how intelligence, like, I don't know if he's known that. That's how intelligence agencies get their message out. You know, see if Britain, let's say the MI5 wants to propagandise the UK. In fact, the Five Eyes is a good example. That's the essence of propagandizing each other because you're not allowed to do it democratically in your own country. And the kind of same thing exists with, oh God, I forgot the name of the act in America which recently got lifted about maybe 10 years ago now. I'm trying to remember it. It's in my nuts somewhere. I used to quote it all the time. But it was an act that get repealed, which allowed America to then propagandize its own citizens, because in a lot of legislation, law, constitutions, countries were forbidden from propagandizing their own citizens, which made for a legal minefield because they were propagandizing the rest of the world. But they couldn't do their own citizens. So if you want to do your own citizens, what you do is you plant a story in a foreign country, and that foreign story could then be reported in your country, and it's just news rather than... It's a reach around. It's a workaround.
Most people believe she's dead.
Well, certainly a lot of people copying and pasting this rumour believe that.
That
But
makes
popular
sense. Copy and
belief
paste
isn't
stuff
evidence.
on blogs.
So what started all these rumours?
Evidence.
Well, in
we talk
February,
about.
when the virus outbreak
We talk about evidence. The guy's on YouTube. He's got cool hair. He looks like the guy out of Scrubs. What more evidence do I need?
was at its peak in
He's an English-speaking guy that travels, spends his time travelling China to report on YouTube how stinky it is. What more evidence do I need?
China, someone went onto the website of the Wuhan Institute of Virology and noticed that there was no photo or bio of one of its ex-students. This is China, where questions tend to be quickly followed by conjecture. Where's the photo? If there's no photo,
Thanks, Stewie. The Smith-Munt Act, that's the one.
then she must be missing.
Smith-Munt Act was the act forbidding America to propagandise its own citizens. But as the world became ever more interconnected, that act existing just didn't become practical, because it would leave them open to all sorts of lawsuits and stuff, because the propaganda that's getting planted elsewhere, because of the way the media works nowadays, it's going to spring back in America. So they had to protect themselves legally.
And if she's missing, she must be dead. And if she's dead, she must have been involved in bat research and died from the new coronavirus. And if she caught the new coronavirus, then she must be patient zero. The story spread across China and was then popularized in the West by Matthew Tai.
Most believe that her body was quickly cremated, and the people working at the crematorium were perhaps infected.
Now that could be true. It is
Ooh.
possible most people who are copying and pasting this rumour do believe her body.
Yeah, I know. They're like, they're just spreading the truth. Spreading the truth. Freedom of speech. No, that's the freedom to copy and paste other people's fucking bits of possible bullshit. And that gets replicated not only just in the copy and pasting element, but just seeing the element where people will watch YouTube clips and then they'll make another YouTube clip saying the exact same thing, trying to pass it off as their own epiphany. I've witnessed this so much. It still happens with some people who don't have a fucking brain cell and they're not to come up with like a fucking original idea ever. Everything some people do is just a fucking carbon copy of something else.
Was cremated and that the cremation crew got infected. Others believe she spread it through her boyfriend. But again, popular belief is not evidence. The most convincing evidence that she might be missing is that the government hasn't dispelled these rumours by finding her. But the sad fact is that people go missing all the time in China, and it's not because they all contracted COVID-19.
It's the Chinese government.
We're dealing with a country that practices arbitrary arrest, and where the slightest criticism of the government can lead to arrest or detention or even imprisonment. It can lead to being fired from your job and relocated, effectively banished, to another part of the country.
And if Huang Yanling is truly alive, like they claim, why is her photo and bio removed?
I honestly have no idea, Matthew. And what would be the point in doing that anyway, especially if her name and her graduation details are still there? She may be missing, she may not be missing. She may have got run over by a bus. She could be one of many people detained in China for political reasons. She could be living happily in Chengdu and doesn't particularly want all this attention. I don't know. You don't know, and the millions of people speculating about this.
FTW, the China Today guy, the one that runs the China Today YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure has connections to the CIA, Chinese and Taiwanese separatists. Well, that just wouldn't surprise me, mate. Otherwise, I'm just wondering, why is some guy with a Yankee Doodle Dandy, who doesn't appear to be slanty-eyed to me, run a independent journalistic YouTube channel telling you how China stinks so much? I mean, it's not as if America doesn't stink. You know, this is my kind of point. Like, see, if you were like, hey, I'm an independent journalist and all that, why would you focus on China when your own doors... I don't know about yous, where I stay's a shithole. Britain and Scotland has fucking problems. Fucking left, right and centre. So why all of a sudden would I focus on fucking other shitholes or problems of places in the world? I don't get it. Unless it's little Mr. Whitey's running around China just want to tell you how fucking bad Slanty Eye is, so that you follow him and he gets well, that's not his channel. God knows how many. He's got hundreds of thousands of followers, and then he can drop that bit of bullshit, twist it, and then somehow, some way, through the grapevine of Chinese whispers, it becomes evidence, and it's evidence of fuck all, and it's just an excuse for war, you know. And like, it's not that I'm fucking like China, but there's lots of people that don't like China, there's lots of people that don't like communism, and there's lots of people, and go and look who those people are. It's not a secret. And they're the same people that are telling us China stink. We're little white guys like this, but hey, look, I've got a fucking got a big nose, got a cool fucking haircut, and I wear a hoodie. I'm down with the kids. I'm no CIA. CIA don't wear hoodies. Nah. Cops all will bounce about with big helmets on. Oh,
what it really says.
Which basically says, we've discovered a new and terrible virus and would like to recruit people to come deal with it.
Which basically says, now anybody at any point, at fucking any point of reporting, basically says is a sales technique. Like, see right now, pay me £1, donate to me £1, and I will make you up to $1 million. Right? Now, legally speaking, you give me £1, I can make you fuck all. But you think I promised you $1 million? That's because nobody's listening to what's getting said. Up to, which basically says, this guy's saying it is basically, so he's offering you up some shit that, right, he's an English speaker. He's offering up content to the English speaking world. How many of the English speaking world can understand that foreign muck language? Zip, zero, nata, very small proportion. So he basically says, Glasgow Celtic stink. Even the Chinese fucking think so. Don't like the Pope too. Fuck them. Fuck the Queen. And coronavirus came from our own laboratories.
The December 24th posting acknowledges that they've made a big discovery in human transmissibility and they need more help to deal with it.
Okay, so it doesn't say any of that. Matthew's showing you a translation of only part of the text he showed in Chinese.
Right.
He's left all this out.
So this is a spinning conjecture. This is a political technique that's getting used all over the world, where they kind of take truths, half-truths, things out of context and spin it. I don't know, like wee small snippets of YouTube videos to try and paint somebody in a different light than what they actually are. I know, it's not like a known, tried and tested technique.
And this missing translation is the part that supposedly says the team has discovered a terrible new virus. In fact, it doesn't say that at all. It says the team is engaged in long-term research that's been published in 110 papers and has identified a large number of new viruses in bats and rodents. So these new viruses haven't just been discovered. The term is referring to discoveries made over the last 10 years, and none of them is described as terrible.
So they're kind of reporting facts, but kind of mixing it all in. Like, you know, it's like a big messy mix of reality, let's say, to paint a... It's like an artist taking primary colours to create other colours, you know? It's just that mixing. Like, it doesn't have to be lies to paint a false picture. You know, colours exist.
Research into bats as carriers of coronavirus is taking place all over the world, from South Africa to Germany, Kenya, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and of course the United States. Why? Because these bats are known to be the source of coronavirus infection. And all these research institutes also advertise for researchers. You don't need to take my word for all this. I put all of these sources and links in the video description so you can check them. The theory that a female intern at a Wuhan lab got infected and then spread the virus is not new. It goes back several months, but its origins are unsubstantiated rumours on the Chinese language internet.
Which, I don't know about you, makes it fucking unconfirmable bullshit to me.
Embellished by bloggers, vloggers and news outlets.
So let's look at the facts here. Unconfirmed rumour on the internet, the Chinese internet, which is picked up on by the Truth for Industrial Complex's independent journalists around the world, and blindly parroted. Blindly parroted. To kick up such a stink, and not blindly parroted, and then Donald Trump's parroting the same things. Where's this coming from? I don't know where it's exactly coming from. I'm going to go at that person. But I'm telling you, it's coming from one source, and it's the people that are fucking pumping out the pro-Trump propaganda. The Truth for Industrial Complex. Big bunch of Zeke Allen fucking onward Christian soldier, Nazi, fascist bastards.
On the English language internet, based on misreadings, mix-ups and mistranslations.
That's his. My conjecture is deliberate misreadings and mistranslations.
That's why everyone, especially mainstream media reporters, need to fact-check this stuff before believing it.
This is the best.
But the idea that the virus leaked from a lab is just too good a story to let go. So bloggers and journalists are conjuring up all kinds of new evidence. Like a photo taken supposedly recently inside the secretive Wuhan Institute of Virology, supposedly showing a broken seal on a fridge containing the SARS-CoV-2 virus. In fact, it was taken 2 years ago and posted on the Wuhan Institute of Virology's own website, and it's still there, along with other photos that the newspapers missed. So there were no SARS-CoV-2 virus samples in the freezer, and all the virus samples that were there are held in sealed containers frozen to minus 23 degrees centigrade. Okay, how about this?
So when she heard about the outbreak of the new virus, she was worried that it could have come from her lab. She spoke about the sleepless nights she suffered worrying whether it was her lab that was responsible for the outbreak.
Which is understandable. After all, it's possible someone might have come into contact with bat samples and not noticed. According to the Washington Post, officials from the US Embassy in Beijing visited the Wuhan Institute of Virology a few years ago and were concerned about safety standards there. According to the Post, the Chinese researchers at WIV were receiving assistance from the Galveston National Laboratory, but the Chinese requested additional help. The cables argued that the United States should give the Wuhan lab further support, mainly because its research on bat coronaviruses was important but also dangerous. But after gene sequencing, it turned out that the new virus was not among the viruses collected from samples taken in the wild. So is it possible it came from a virus the lab possessed that was similar? That's the claim of a tabloid newspaper, now being read out by this YouTuber.
One of the...
Ding! Now, again, he gets presented as like some sort of a pseudo-intellectual. Who would? I'm a big fat man, fucking it looks like Jeremy Beadle's love child, and I don't say fucking or bugger unless I have to, and when I do, I say it in an English accent. My God, and now And again, look, this guy leaves all the details for all this shit down below. Just check this out. Just stick it on the logic train. Go and check this dude where he comes from, if he's got any political affiliations and stuff. Right? I'll tell you right now, this guy has political affiliations. He's part of a political party. He's part of a political party that includes Nigel Farage and fucking Creepy Hamilton. What's his fucking name? Can't forget his name. Fucking Lord, a few Lord Farquhars, a few Christian fundamentalists as well, right? So I'm going to say this guy is far more less objective than Pothole 54. But go and check it out. You make your own mind up. Just something to think about, isn't it? Especially when you're listening to fucking people's advice about fucking pandemics and shit like that, before you go and start playing with traffic and licking doorknobs.
The virus sample she had in the laboratory had a 96% genetic match to COVID-19.
What they mean is that
This is the same thing that every fucking windy licker for fucking on the YouTube sphere is parroting without understanding it. Or, in fact, without listening to people with an opposite opinion, explaining it to you, and then make your mind up whether David Icke is right or this guy with credentials is right.
it had a 96% genetic match to SARS-CoV-2. COVID-19 is the disease, not the virus. The newspaper is referring to RATG13, a naturally occurring virus that the researchers sampled from a bat in Yunnan province.
This is the shit that idiots like myself spaz out on, and you need to use your due diligence to go through the experts without just believing Sargon of Akkad.
But 96% doesn't make this the same virus. After all, we humans share 96% of our DNA with chimpanzees. One research team may have found a much
That obviously makes us chimps then.
better match, 99%, with a virus found in pangolins. But I can't cite that definitively because the research hasn't been published yet. Another popular theory is that the virus was deliberately bioengineered in an effort to study bat viruses and then accidentally escaped from the lab. The favourite piece of evidence for this theory is, supposedly, a 2017 article in Nature. Researchers created a chimeric virus made up of surface protein SHC014. All right, you read it.
And the backbone of a SARS virus that had been adapted to grow mice and to mimic human disease. Kill them. You'll notice the March editor's note on this because this appears to be obviously related to the question of was this created in a lab? They say we are aware this story
Has he had some work done or something, man? He's looking fucking far fucking worse than he ever has
is
done.
being used as a basis for
Maybe just get the lighting good.
unverified theories that the novel coronavirus causing COVID-19 was engineered. There's no evidence that this is true. Scientists believe that an animal is the most likely source of the coronavirus. Well, ultimately, that was...
This is how a tough fucking idiot, fat man idiot, like, do you know the accent of authority? He's got the accent of authority. He has no fucking clue what he's talking about here. No idea. This fat Jeremy Beadle fucking lookalike fucking who's plastic surgery to make himself look fucking thinner because he's so fucking arrogant has no clue about science behind viruses. None whatsoever.
would still be the same.
Which will be demonstrated
if it was
here.
engineered, would it not?
No, it would not. Making assumptions like
So here's an opposite opinion to Sargon of Akkad. So again, go and look who this guy is, look at his credentials, and then listen to Sargon of Akkad and decide for yourself who's telling you the truth.
this, based on a failure to understand the difference between a lab-made virus and one that comes from an animal, is
Like me.
exactly why Nature warned you not to use the paper as the basis for unverified theories. Enough.
Amazing. He uses the thing that's warning you not to use that to fucking make fucking bullcrap analogies, and then he uses it to make a bullcrap analogy. But that's how these spin doctors work. Everybody's aware of what a spin doctor is, aren't they? So Celtic fans that try and pretend they're better than Rangers.
To reading that warning out loud, you come straight out with an unverified theory. Natural viruses and lab-engineered viruses are completely different. Because when researchers are bioengineering a virus, they usually don't build the entire thing from scratch. What they're interested in is the business end of the virus, called the spike proteins. They house the receptor binding domain, the RBD, where the virus attaches itself to the host cell, and the cleavage sites, where it breaks in and enters the cell.
I kind of half understand that. If you're engineering a virus, you wouldn't do it from scratch because it would take too much work. You take an already existing virus and attach the bad shit, the Bill Gates demon virus receptors onto that. The RDNA or something?
So except in exceptional circumstances, they build the spike proteins onto the structure of an existing infectious virus. I suppose the best analogy is
Logically,
graffiti
it makes
artists.
sense.
They usually don't spend lots of time and money building an entire wall from scratch in order to spray paint their art. They find an existing wall and use that. When researchers at the Scripps Institute examined the genetic makeup of the new coronavirus, they discovered that the whole thing was new. Not only that, there was clear evidence that the virus had evolved. It had genetic sequences that could only be obtained in the presence of a complete immune system. Battle scars, if you like, showing that it had been forced to evolve by adapting and trying to overcome immune responses. You don't get that by artificially growing a virus in the presence of isolated cells. The Scripps Institute researchers published their findings in Nature Medicine with the clear conclusion that it wasn't a laboratory construct. One of the researchers told Science Daily, "These two features of the virus, the mutations in the RBD portion of the spike protein and its distinct backbone, rules out laboratory manipulation as a potential origin for SARS-CoV-2. The fact that this virus wasn't engineered rules out another rumour in the English-language blogosphere that it was a bioweapon developed by the Chinese, and the rumour on the Chinese blogosphere that it was bioengineered by the US Army. Analysis of the virus has ruled that out. The Australian tabloid this YouTuber and many others are copying from claims it got all its information from a leaked dossier.
Now remember the irony of all the independent internet media who constantly tell you all the mainstream media lie to you, who then use selective parts of the mainstream media to confirm their worldview. It's the most bizarre concept ever. You know, I mean, it really is true though if you think about it. Alex Jones sits there with a big pile of mainstream media proving his conspiracies through the mainstream media who he calls liars. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Is it just me that, how can somebody prove that they're liars by using their shit to prove that their worldview is right, to prove that they're liars? It just doesn't. There's just nobody can get on the logic train of that shit. It just doesn't make sense. They're like, it's just the new. It's the new form of media, right? The old form of media used to be in the TV and print, right? There was no fucking talking head there to sway your favour. Now the internet took hold, and there could be a talking head going like that, with a hat on, some glasses, a fucking cool t-shirt or whatever, to sway your favour, rather than actually telling you, or doing journalism, for example. You know, all these assholes stand up and I don't know if they believe what they're saying or not, but surely if you look at the definition of journalism, none of these people are journalists. None of them are journalists. Anyway.
Compiled by governments, but it won't show it or tell us who wrote it. A secret leaked dossier does sound more reliable than bloggers, YouTubers and tabloid newspapers, but it doesn't contain a single piece of information that couldn't have been found on the internet with a simple Google search. The information about a 96% match, for example, comes from a Nature paper by Chinese researchers, including Shijun Li, published in February.
So the Chinese are offering up the evidence themselves that this is a bioweapon. That's what he's basically touching on there if you listen to what he said. Which doesn't make sense because people are saying China are hiding the fact it's a bioweapon when it's the Chinese evidence that they offered up that the people are using to claim it's a bioweapon.
The fact that the authors of the supposed dossier thought COVID-19 as a virus says a lot about their expertise and the extent of their research. And the information about a chimeric virus built in a laboratory is hardly secret. It comes from this February paper in Nature. The quotes about Shi Zhengli worrying that the virus might have come from her laboratory were published in April in Scientific American, etc., etc. No need for the Telegraph to invoke a leaked dossier. All this could have been just as easily written by an intern trawling through the internet and copying and pasting publicly available information.
That doesn't happen. People trawling through the internet, copy and pasting information, comments, blah blah blah, under 1,001 different accounts to smear and steer people's opinion and stuff. That doesn't happen, y'all.
But as researcher Peter Darshak says,
let's look at the balance of probability. That's what
the narrator, mate, is the guy that makes the videos.
what you have to do.
That's because there's another laboratory in China which is a much more likely source of the infection.
Now let's look at this secret. He goes in deep into this secret laboratory. So go and check out the dude.
Unlike the Wuhan Institute of Virology or the Wuhan CDC, which have just a few researchers handling bat samples using safety equipment and protocols, this secretive laboratory outside Wuhan employs thousands of researchers. It's never been inspected by anyone outside of China, and yet it has a much lower level of biosecurity than both of the other labs. Safety equipment here is completely absent, and there have been numerous cases of researchers coming into contact with bat blood and bat urine.
We need to shut this down.
I'm sure you'd agree that this laboratory is a much more likely source of infection.
Shut it down.
Now that I've got the attention of the lab leak believers, the place I'm talking about isn't actually a laboratory. It's the countryside, and the researchers are actually just Chinese farmers and villagers who venture into the woods and caves around Wuhan, trapping bats for food and digging bat guano for fertilizer.
People live out in rural areas close to bat caves. They're exposed every night when bats fly over them, urinate, defecate, maybe onto their food or into their drink. And people go into bat caves. People go in for various reasons. They're going to dig out the bat guano, the feces, and they use it as a fertilizer, just like we used to do many years ago with bird feces. They go into caves to shelter from the rain. They're farmers. They're subsistence farmers hunting and eating wildlife, so they get exposed that way.
Even tourists visit caves crowded with bats and infested with bat urine and feces. So if the virus...
Now, you can think that this English-sounding gentleman is some sort of a Chinese commie spy or just an intellectual trying to address the balance of probabilities of this stuff. You make up your own mind. I know where my head's at. Where's your head at?
Made the direct jump from bats to humans. These places where thousands of unprotected people come into contact with bats and don't isolate themselves are a much more likely source of infection. So why don't tabloid newspapers write stories about this? For the same reason I had to call it a laboratory, to get people's attention. Secret labs full of reckless scientists and dangerous experiments releasing deadly viruses make headlines.
For paranoid old bastards, it's like a spunk, but it's like a man, it's like a porno mag. Instead of actually trying to touch base with reality before they start freaking themselves out and other people out and stuff like that. But hey ho.
And sell newspapers. Peasant farmers collecting bat shit in caves. Well, you can see why people prefer the lab.
Do you see why I call it batshit crazy? Oh, hold on a sec. I'd say batshit crazy. Does that mean that the centre of the Wuhan batshit crazy infection
story? But all that assumes the virus jumped from bats directly to humans in the first place. Although bats are probably the reservoir for the virus, most researchers don't think they passed it directly on to humans. According to DNA analysis, SARS-CoV-2 first evolved around 50 years ago in bats, and then most likely spread to humans through an intermediate species. That was how previous viruses have spread, SARS through civets and MERS through camels. A likely pathway for SARS-CoV-2 was through pangolins. It's the world's most...
You learn something new every day. Never heard of this animal before. Looks like a fucking aardvark.
trafficked mammal, highly prized in China for food,
They fucking motherfuckers can
as well
eat
as
anything, can't they, man? Look at that thing that looks like a bit of wood. Let's cook it.
having its scales used for traditional medicine. As I mentioned earlier, one so far unpublished study found a virus in pangolins that shared
Motherfuckers we eat.
99% of its DNA with SARS-CoV-2. So what has the Wuhan seafood market got to do with all this? Well, very early on it was clear that many patients coming into Wuhan hospitals with pneumonia-like conditions had a connection to the market. A paper in The Lancet, a British medical journal, confirmed this. It's possible it came to the market from outside and spread there simply because it's the kind of place where crowds of people come together, but it's also possible the virus started there. Not by bats, which weren't sold at the market, but through other animals sold there. Epidemiologists and virologists have been warning for years that these wild animal sales, where exotic species are brought together, often alive in closely packed cages, are a breeding ground for new viruses. They've been calling for the Chinese government to shut them down and stamp out the trade.
Fuck, my dad was a butcher, man, and even this shit makes like fucking hell, man. I like my carcasses of animals dead. No in a cage.
That's where the attention needs to be focused, and that's why the Chinese government needs to be held accountable. It's always easier to blame scientists because that makes for a better story and a more juicy conspiracy. Most people don't understand science, and they don't read any of the published...
What do you mean I don't understand science? I watched a YouTube video about Albert Einstein. Now I understand E = MC squared. I watched Richie Allen, brought to me a guy with fucking funny hair who was Corbyn's brother, you see. And I now understand everything about everything. What are you talking about? Oh man, simpletons fucking been... Simpletons... It's like larger IQs than me being able to fucking get convinced they understand how viruses work and all that with a couple of idiots on fucking YouTube because people have pointed out what full of shit the TV is. The internet is full as much shit as the TV.
Research that comes from these institutes, so it's easy to convince them that these places are secretive and mysterious. It not only sells newspapers, it sells t-shirts.
Fucking doesn't only back up David Icke's bullshit. A virus that's in pretty much every lab in every country in the world doesn't exist. They're making it up. And then everybody jumps on that. Next thing you know, there's fucking protests with Jada Francine. Although I don't know if I need to check that. There's a rumour that the protests and Jada Francine's company is just very similar. But anyway, I wanted to go over that. I really did. I thought it was worthwhile. I shared the video a few times. And you should have it. Oh. There we go. I'm going to have to mute that, aren't I? And it's not even the right fit. My God. Out of order. Boom, in the room. Anyway, in the afternoon. In the morning, one and all. I seen that this morning. I thought it was a great video in the way that it shows the Chinese whispers. And, like, I don't know how best to approach this other than, like, I ain't a communist. I get any sympathies towards China whatsoever. I mean, anytime I've looked like I've got slanty eyes, it's for other reasons. And I just think it's worthwhile exploring, like, whether there's people trying to stir us up into a war against China because they don't like communism. It's not whether you do not like communism. You know who I don't? Do you know who I think doesn't like communism the best? The cunt sitting in a big pile of cash who would get the fucking kicked off that big pile of cash and told to fuck off if communism actually won the argument. But that's the problem with communism. To achieve it, people are going to have to die. So is that an excuse to just sit with the status quo? I don't know. You make up your own mind. But why do you? We're getting put in a headspace to get ready to go and smash the Chinese. That's my opinion. And I'm not quite ready to smash the Chinese, man. I don't know. I like their food, but I've learned how to make my own sweet and sour chicken. Anyway, so hopefully you enjoyed that. I'll leave a link. Left the link for the clip in the sideshow. Thumbs this clip up. Share it with your friends, your family, and your foes. Help the channel and the show. Remember what I do here. It's digital masking. It's all available and accessible free of charge. It's all available. Going to do such a good job, you'll find value in what I do and use your spare change, not your life savings. In the Patreon and PayPal buttons down below. And remember, this is the original, the OG digital busking show. Anyway, alright, you boob tubes. Stay safe, play with traffic, and lick doorknobs. Catchies.
Clips.